What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Babbles Nonsense podcast. On today's episode, we're just going to do a little catch-up sesh. I haven't had one in a little bit, so won't be babbling your ears off for long. Thank you for the positive feedback last week on the political aspect of everything. I know it's been very heavy here lately. There's a lot going on in the world. I, for whatever reason, have a feeling it's not going to get any better anytime soon. But I will say the biggest thing that we can do is use our voice in a vote. I was talking with a friend today, which I'm recording this on Monday and it drops on Tuesday. But I was talking to a friend today. We were having some tea and we were just discussing like how a lot of people will say, I'm not going to vote because it doesn't matter anyways. And especially you hear that a lot in the South because I live in Alabama. And I used to be one of those. I mentioned that on the podcast last week. I used to be someone who would say that, but I would still go out and vote, but just probably not as informed as I probably should have been. And I do want to challenge people on that if you're thinking about it, because I do think it matters. Because if you think about it as a whole, if let's say 500,000 people were saying my vote doesn't matter, that's 500,000 votes that could have went either to the opposing party or to, Senate seats, House seats, whatever you're voting for at that moment. And I just think it's wise to not say that. And whatever happens with this, this remapping in certain states and whatnot, and however hard it is to make some whatever's going to happen, and if it makes it harder to vote, still just get out and vote, because I think that's the point, is to make it harder and to just get people to not vote. But yeah, that's the message. Go out and vote whenever that may be for you for the midterm elections this year. Anyways, enough about that, because we already have so much heaviness in the world. I know I've done an episode previously on The Pit and how much I love it. It's one of the most, I feel like, realistic medical shows that we have had out there. I just love it. And the second season is out. And I guess the reason why it's so fresh on my brain is because I just binged it this past weekend. I waited until it was almost over. I don't know if it's completely over or almost over, but I waited until I could watch several episodes in a row. Because if you haven't watched it and you haven't listened to my previous episode, that's where they do a whole shift as episodes. I think this season right now, if there's not going to be any more in season 2, is 15 episodes, and it goes from 7 a.m. And in this one, it goes to 9 p.m. So it does show a little bit of difference in there this season. So I don't want to ruin it for anyone. So if you haven't watched it yet, or you're planning on watching it, I am going to give a little spoilers away. So this would be the time to cut this off and rejoin later. But this year in The Pit, it does kind of hone in on the mental health of the ER physician and how much he does carry that weight of seeing sick patients and patients dying and things like that. And that is something that it does. I work with veterans now. I did, 11 years in the ER, and you just learn to kind of block things out, which can seem very cold-hearted. And when I talk to veterans now, it's very similar to and I'm not going to say it's exactly the same. Obviously, veterans put their lives on the lines, and there's a lot more into being in the military. But where I can relate to them, and they also say it's the same, is just having to completely shut your mind down and not have emotion, whether that be towards that person, or you walk into work and you're having a very stressful day. You just had a fight with your spouse or partner or friend or parents or whatever. You have to put that at the door, because emotions can change, number one, how you treat a patient, number two, your decision-making skills. And it's just something that's wild. And again, I know that being in healthcare, we're dealing with lives, and that's so important. And it's not comparable. When we say, oh, well, it kind of is. For example, making a car. If that car isn't built correctly and it's not safe for someone, then someone's life is at stake. Same for a house. If your house is not built to code, if your house isn't built correctly, there's certain things if a tornado comes by, winds, things like that, it can harm a person. So when I've talked to people in other professions, it's almost like everyone, and I'm not going to say everyone, I'm just going to say generalize, like generalized people that I've talked to, it seems like they expect healthcare workers to just be perfect and to get everything right all the time and to not make a mistake. And I get that. And I get why, because especially when we're talking about the ER, you're in a vulnerable position. You don't want to be there. You're either very sick or you've been involved in a trauma or something of the sort. So I get it. Like, you're very vulnerable, but I think that's where it's like people forget that it's still a job. It's still a very high stress job, very long hours, then other things that are layered into that, like administration, things that people don't see behind the scenes, or being low staffed, or, not having a lunch break and things like that. Again, we chose this life, so I'm not trying to complain about it, but I think that there are certain things that people don't get to see behind the scenes because we're all bad about it. Like, in general, whether you're in the ER, whether you're just in your life, like, we are very what's the word? Into self. I can't think of the word right now. I don't know. I think my thyroid could be low again because I've been having some brain fog on thinking about words. But we're just very like self-centered. There's the word. and I think that's human nature, but I think we have to work really hard at not being that way and trying to put ourselves in other people's shoes. And I've been really trying to focus on that here lately. Just because I know when I'm stressed, I'm kind of, short with people. And it's not that I'm trying to be short with them because I don't care about their needs. It's just like, it's something within me that's going on, and that's kind of how I shut down. But I'm trying to work on that. And I think that as a population as a whole, that would be great. But I say all that to say, long rant there. Just if you haven't checked out The Pit, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Just to give a little bit of perspective. It's not like, obviously there's some things in there that I could be like, does that really happen? No. But it is probably, if I had to estimate, 85 to 90%, probably even 95% accurate. And they do such a well job doing it. Good job, well job, whatever. Good job. Anyways, enough about that. I just want to also say today, when you do listen to this on Cinco de Mayo, I hope you're out somewhere enjoying a nice margarita, because that is what I will be doing. If you didn't know, my favorite alcoholic beverage is a margarita, pending that it's made correctly. More specifically, love a pineapple or a spicy pineapple margarita. Something about the pineapple being sweet and then having a little kick in there is just so delicious. But you got to put it in correctly. Like, if it's too sweet, it's not good. If it's too spicy, it's not good. And I'll be serious. I'm a pretty harsh judge on some margaritas. I'm not going to lie. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned on this podcast before, me and my friend Pop, we typically go somewhere on Cinco de Mayo if we can, or if our schedules align or anything like that. And one year, I want to say it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, he was like, let's go to Mellow Mushroom. And I was like, Mellow Mushroom? The pizza place? I was like, for margaritas? And he was like, yeah, they're going to have this smoky, it's called a campfire or something. And it was like a peachy. And I was like, okay, we'll try it. Guys, I'm not even going to lie. That was probably one of the best margaritas I've ever had. It was so delicious. I want to say it was probably made with mezcal because it was smoky. I will say I don't love mezcal. I know a lot of people love it. I'm just not the biggest fan of it. It's very smoky. I'm not into the smoky drinks like where people do like the smoky old fashions and stuff like that. But anywho, I hope you're on a patio somewhere enjoying a margarita, because that's what I will be doing. All right, switching gears again. I told y'all, I warned y'all this was going to be all over the place today. So hope you're keeping up. Hope this is entertaining. If you haven't listened to the Kevin Hart podcast on Call Her Daddy, I think it came out last Wednesday. Hilarious. That man is just so funny, but he's also, it seems like he has a really good heart. Obviously, I don't know him. This is just an interview from one podcast, but I've really enjoyed like following him throughout the years. I actually did get to see him in stand-up when he was in Huntsville. Got to go first row. That was amazing. I laughed so hard. Like, he was even funnier in person. And I went with a friend. They, their friends didn't go, so he had an extra ticket. So I went, and it was just really funny. I mean, I was just happy that I got to experience that, especially being first row. Anything in a comedy club, I feel like if you're first and center, like obviously you're number one there for attacks possibly, or jokes or whatever. But two, I think just because you have so many more people up there because they want to see people, it's just the environment makes it even more funny, because I'll be like, watching some of the stuff on TV, and sure, I'm laugh, it's funny, but not as hard as I remember or recall when I was there, like first stage or front row at the stage. But yeah, I just think that if you haven't listened to that podcast, it kind of gives a different perspective on him, because even though he is funny, Alex does have a good way of like asking deeper questions, and they're kind of woven throughout, more so towards the end, where he actually just gets to like talk and answer deeper questions about why he got into comedy, and like what he's really wanting his legacy to be, and things like that, and like how he wants to give back to the comedy world, because apparently there's a new Netflix show, I think it's called Funny AF, where he's doing a reality series of teaching or training or doing something with comedians. And Alex did have a good point. Like, that's such a thing that we don't have in reality TV today. Like, we have a lot of competition for singing, or what's the other one? America's Got Talent or whatnot. We have those type things, but we don't have just like a comedy reality competition. So I was like, that is a good point. So also goes to show how smart he is. You know what I'm saying? And last but not least, I need to address why I cut my hair off. I know a few of y'all have asked me. I do this. If you go back and look at my photos, I do this probably every 2 to 4 years. It just depends. My hair was long for a while, and I'm just someone who likes different looks with hair. I'll be honest, when I do it, I'm always like, why did I do this? It takes a minute to grow on me, but it's just something I just like. I know some people they like a certain look, and once they have their look, that's it. They just stay there. But for me, I don't know. I just like to switch it up, and then I always cut it off once, and then I let it regrow out, and it takes a couple years to grow out. So there's different stages and what it looks like, and I don't know. I mean, it's generally the same kind of hair style or cut that I like. Like, I like a lot of layers, and I like the 90s butterfly haircut. Like, if you don't know what that is, like, think when Topanga, if you know who that is, maybe you're too young for that, cut her hair in Boy Meets World for the first time. Kind of like that, when everybody wanted that type of hairstyle. But yeah, it wasn't anything to do with anything other than it was like, you know what, it's just time to chop it. And I always have to wait until I'm like, okay, let's do it. And it's just like when you start seeing a lot of people, like a lot of my friends were cutting their hair, it's like, oh my gosh, your hair looks so cute. But then it's like, can it grow back out tomorrow? So we'll see where it goes. We'll see how it flows and whatever. But anyways, thank you guys for babbling along with me this week, or whenever you listen to this. And next week, we'll probably be back on a topic. Me and you are coming up with a lot of topics that we want to talk about, and just collaborating again and going from there. So until next time, guys, bye.